Yourself a coffee, get comfortable. We're about to get started. I'm excited to have this conversation with our guest today. You won't want to miss it. Unfortunately, we won't have time to catch every comment, so if there's something very important that you want seen, please consider using a super chat. As always, be respectful. We're glad you're here, and enjoy the show. Good evening, afternoon, everybody. How is everybody doing today? We today have our good friend Sean with us. You know him as SD Bradley. How are we doing, buddy?
Excellent. Everything's going great. Got my daughter
I love it.
to start driving. Got to sleep in a little bit today. Everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the Lego movie?
Oh yeah, that's where it came from.
Well, it's been one of those things I wanted to have you here and talk to you for a long time. We met a couple years ago at KPL,
Yep.
and you've been a staple in my chats and in this community. You've come out to I don't know how many meetups you've been to. Just I don't even know, like, you, for me, you've almost always been there. So it's just one of those people that's been super supportive and amazing to have around. And I'm glad that, have an opportunity to finally sit down and talk with you. And I'm sure that everybody kind of wants to get to know your story. For that, I mean, I don't know how many times you've actually told your story, if at all.
Yeah,
And
with Cindy, but
with
yeah,
Cindy.
it's been a while ago. Yeah.
So give us a moment here. Tell us a little bit about your backstory, a little bit about kind of how you found and what led you to like keto, carnivore, low carb, that whole
So
thing.
yeah, back in 2008, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Um, I had fatty liver disease, uh, real bad neuropathy in my feet, and the pretty much I had a fatty liver cyst on my liver that was 14 centimeters, and it was like right next to the wall of my liver, so it was very problematic. I had my gallbladder removed. It took 2 years for the doctor to finally do that, and was in a lot of pain. And so back in 2019, I had smashed my toe on. My dad had this porcelain frog that he used to keep the door open, and my toe actually turned black. And, well, the tip of my toe turned black from smacking it into it, and the the doctor basically told me that I might lose it, and I was like, ugh. And then in 2020, Shell, she well, the end of 2019, she started watching videos, and she started doing a little bit of research and stuff like that. And in January 2020, she started doing keto, and I thought it was nonsense because we tried like South Beach diet before. We tried, a couple of other random things here and there, basically eating low fat, basically rice cakes and peanut butter for meals and things like that. And
I remember those days.
yeah, not fun. But you know, and then she was like, "Well, I'm doing it." I'm like, "Yeah, oh, have fun." And within a month, we had to go clothes shopping for her. And she had lost that much weight in a month that she needed to go like 2 sizes down in clothes. We didn't know how much weight she lost because she never stepped on a scale. She never went to the doctor. She never did any of that. And finally, in February, the icing on the cake for keto was she sat me down and she said, "I want you to watch this video." And it was Dr. Barry. And he was saying, "You can reverse your type 2 diabetes." And I was thinking, they told me it was hereditary. I'm stuck with it for the rest of my life. And I didn't believe anything he was saying. I'm like, okay, so what's he selling? I watched the entire video, and he wasn't selling any supplements. He wasn't selling any products. He wasn't saying, buy this, buy that. He was just saying, if you do this, you will reverse your type 2 diabetes. I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be something to it, because Shell was losing all that weight, and I was like around 250 pounds ish. Like I said, I never stepped on the scale, and within 6 months, my A1C went from 7.4 down to 5.1. I was on all different kinds of medicine. I was on metformin, 1,000 milligrams of that. I was on Jardiance, the 50 milligrams of that was the highest dose. And with both of those medicines, my A1C was still 7.4. I was on losartan, hydrochlorothiazide for blood pressure. I was on simvastatin. I was taking a pill called Duexis. It was 800 milligrams of ibuprofen and 25 milligrams of famotidine, which is basically helps protect the lining in your stomach. And I was in a car accident back in 2009, and messed my back up pretty bad. Couldn't do any surgery or anything. It was pinched nerve, and they couldn't fix it. So I was just pretty much debilitating back pain, and they said there's nothing I can do for it. Tried going to the chiropractor 3 times a week. They wanted $33 a visit for the chiropractor at 3 times a week, and doing the math, it was over $400 a month just to go to the chiropractor. And I was like, and it was diminishing returns. I was, when I first started out, felt great, and then towards the end, they'd pop my back, and I'd go back about an hour, 2 hours later, and my back would be hurting. Well, I was taking 6 of those pills a day, the Duexis, and it was about 4,800 milligrams of ibuprofen a day, and I couldn't function without it. It was like I don't know, we call it an addiction, I guess, because that was the only way I could really, walk up and down stairs and do everything else I needed to do with my job. And then the insurance company basically said, you can take ibuprofen and famotidine. You don't need this special pill. Just, take these things together. And they stopped giving me the Duexis. Well, that was right before I started keto, and within 6 months of doing keto, no more back pain. Within 6 months of doing keto, no more, well, I won't say no more, just the neuropathy in my feet were, better. Instead of the pins and needles, I just have a little bit of numbness, but I was going to the podiatrist and getting shots in my feet every week, or, month, just to basically stop the pins and needles feeling. And, you know, I, you sit there and everybody tells you that, you know, that this is bad for you. That the doctor, when I went back to him 6 months later and my A1C dropped like a friggin' rock, he was like, "That's fantastic. What did you do?" And I said, "Well, I started keto." And he went, "You're going to have a heart attack and die." I'm like, my A1C is better. You told me I needed to lose about 40 or 50 pounds, and I needed to get my A1C under control. And I did it. It's under control. My A1C hadn't been above 5.2 since I started. And, so I was like, he was like, "Well, the second you get off of keto, you're going to put all the weight back on, your A1C is going to shoot up, and you're going to be diabetic again." And I'm like, "Well, joke's on you. I'm not going back. Sorry."
That's crazy though. So like the idea, like, and not to interrupt you, but just like
No, no.
I think it's important to discuss that right there, that little piece of information. That's one of the biggest things. Like, well, if you stop, then it's all going to come back. It's like, yeah, but all the medicines you had me on were not helping. They were they were continually rising. I was every year going up, going up, going up, and I felt awful. Right. So
Yep.
you're going to tell me that if I found a way to manage this without medication, that I'm doing something wrong. And Shander had kind of a similar thing when we first started doing this. Her being in the medical field, talking with people in her hospital and stuff, like, well, it's dangerous. Well, why is it dangerous?
Yeah.
Well, it's not sustainable. But why is it not sustainable? What else?
Yeah. There's never an answer. It's always you're not able to do it.
It's a revolving door.
Yeah.
And I think, and I still feel and still kind of I'm still very reluctant to think that most of it is from a nefarious place, right?
Right.
I still think that it's just a place of not even willful ignorance. I think it's just we
It's
put. Go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's ignorance, and it's also a bit of arrogance because I went to school for so many years, and I have this degree, and I know more about this than you. And I just, I mean, the fact that I, I, I still don't want to believe that my primary care doctor wasn't coming from a bad spot. He was trying to help me out and do what was best for me. But the fact that it took me over 12 years to get diagnosed with sleep apnea, it took over 2 years for them to finally decide that, hey, he's in a lot of pain. He needs to get his gallbladder taken out. You know, I, there were days where when I was having gallbladder attacks that I would have to sleep kneeling down with my head planted into the couch because that was the only way I could stop. The pain was bearable enough to pass out for, you know. I mean, I remember one night I was sweating so bad that I couldn't even stand it, and I was standing in front of a mirror that we had in the kitchen with a steak knife, and I was like, where the hell is this damn thing? I want to try to cut this thing out of me because it's killing me. I can't take it anymore. And then finally, they did a CT scan with radioactive dye contrast, and my gallbladder didn't show up at all. There was no blood flow to it. It literally didn't show up. And he was like, yeah, we need to take this out like and I was scheduled for surgery like a week later.
When they removed it, did they find that it had been necrotized or anything like that?
It was extremely enlarged to the point that it was almost ready to burst, and it was so full of gallstones that, I mean, it 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 was basically blocked. The bile duct was blocked, and no flow of anything could go through there.
So basically, you weren't even getting any. There was no, I mean, no bile going through, none of that stuff. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like I remember my brother had his gallbladder removed, and I remember before he had it removed, he had had a lot of issues, and I was helping him. He was doing what I'm doing. He would just ask me, like, okay, he would just go to the grocery store every night and send me pictures of what he was buying and say, is this okay? Is this what I'm like, yes, it's pork. Okay. He was buying, because at the time he was buying these pound bricks of ground pork that were like 99 cents a pound. And so he was eating that, and he had gone through and, like completely reverse his fatty liver and all these things, and like lost a bunch of weight. And like the doctor, I remember right before the surgery, had asked him, well, how did you do that? And he goes, I just listened to my brother. And he looks at me, and I'm like, it's like, and I think we've gotten to a point where, not to get totally off the rails or off the topic or whatever, but I think we've got to the point now where I think, and I think that we're starting to do this, is where we just don't call it keto anymore.
Right. Yep.
We don't call it carnivore. We just say, hey, I'm eating a whole food diet that prioritizes protein, right?
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think, that should sum it up, and it's going to cause less of that,
yeah.
the pearl clutching.
The shock.
So go back and so you had your gallbladder removed.
Yeah.
It was enlarged,
yeah.
full of gallstones.
Yeah.
And then kind of what happened next?
Well, I mean, that pain went away, but I still had all the other pain to go through. And then, I mean, the fact that the surgeon basically told me that if that thing would have burst, I would have been dead. And it was unimaginable that it took 2 years for them to finally do that. And so after that, they wanted me to get my liver cyst looked at, and they wanted me to drive to Charlottesville, which is about 2 hours away. And I met with the surgeon up in Charlottesville, and there was a nutritionist up there that they wanted me to see as well. And the nutritionist had me do his diet, which was based on like the glycemic index, and say I could only go so far on the glycemic index and things like that. And there's a lot of fruits and vegetables and chicken breast and things like that. And I tried doing that for a couple of years, and my A1C went from, it was around 6.5, 6.7 to 7.4. I mean, everything I did exactly what they said. So eventually I just stopped going to the nutritionist because it wasn't working. And then the surgeon, we had like 2 or 3 visits, and we scheduled something, and basically something fell through and the surgery didn't go through, and I was never contacted about it again. And I basically thought that it must not be that bad, because they're not contacting me and telling me that I need to get this thing done.
So repeat that again. So you had a surgery scheduled.
Yep.
Something fell through with the scheduling. Something happened where they weren't able to perform the surgery.
Yep.
And they never contacted you again
Yep.
And that was over the course of how long?
Wow. It was a couple of years. It was like 2017, 2018. The only reason I got that liver cyst removed was because of Shell. She was working in Roanoke, and there was a endocrinologist that she was working with, and
Hepatologist.
a what ecologist? A
Hepatologist.
hepatologist. Sorry, a liver specialist. But and she basically told him what was going on. The first thing they did was they set up, and this was within a couple of weeks. They set up an ultrasound, and they looked at the cyst. And the last time I looked at the cyst, it was around 10 centimeters. And the 2 years that I let it go, it went up to 14. So basically, it was like that. Took up most of my liver. And yeah, it was crazy. And the doc looked at it and says, we need to get this done, like now. Another month later, they were wheeling me into the OR, or the operating room, yeah. And they took a laser and they cut it out and laced it and sucked all the fluid out of it and burned it so that they said it might come back, but chances are it probably won't. My liver enzyme tests have been perfect since, so I haven't been worried about it. I mean, the surgery happened like maybe a year after I started keto. Might have been 2. And I could only imagine how big that liver cyst was prior to me starting keto. If it was 14.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know like how much keto has as far as cysts are concerned. Because basically, what a cyst does is like a pocket that just
Yep.
holds skin cells and all that stuff, or you know
Holds
what I mean?
fluid.
Like,
Yep.
yeah, fluid and skin cells and just bleh and pus and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yep.
so that's the fact that they just
Yeah.
like for the kids out there just totally ghosted you, right? Like
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Yep. I mean, it was
Had
crazy.
you tried to contact them and they just didn't return calls, or
Um, Not really. I mean, I so basically I didn't. I tried. I'd say I tried contacting them once or twice, and I was basically, well, I guess it's not that important. It must not be as detrimental to me as they originally said it was, because they're not screaming to get it done. So
that's
I mean,
that's
yeah,
that's just so like it's so hard to imagine that just fell through the cracks,
yeah,
or not even fell through the cracks. It just seemed like they're. Eh. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's
I mean,
just
and with that was the other thing. I got tested back in 2012 for sleep apnea because I was passing out at work, and they thought it was medicine related. They thought it was diabetes related. They thought it was everything but sleep apnea, because when I went to the lab, they had me so freaking wired up that I could barely move. And I told them, I was like, I fall asleep on my side. And the lab basically told me, well, then you can't have sleep apnea because you have to be lying on your back in order for you to stop breathing. Well,
not
I mean,
even a
yeah,
thing.
right.
I
I mean,
snore on my side. I snore on my back. It doesn't matter.
right, exactly. So, and it came back inconclusive because basically I can't fall asleep on my back. I flip flop like a daggum flounder pretty much the entire time I sleep. I'm on my back, I'm on my right, I'm on my left. The only place I don't sleep is on my stomach. And yeah, so which is kind of funny because that's Michelle's favorite sleeping position, flat on
Yeah.
her stomach.
I would love. I remember as a kid, I used to sleep on my stomach, but now it just feels unnatural.
Right, exactly. So
Now
yeah,
I had to basically for my sleep apnea. So Shander was like, you need to get tested for sleep apnea. You need to see about getting, have them do a test or whatever. I'm like, okay. So we were talking with my GP at the time, and trying to basically had to try to convince them that getting tested was a necessity. They're like, do you fall asleep watching TV? Yes. Do you are you tired? Yes. You get tired when you drive? Yes. Like all these things.
oh yeah, yep,
And finally they reluctantly tested me.
yep,
And then I kind of not necessarily ghosted them, but like so it was terrible circumstances because they gave me this take home test thing, right?
right.
And I put it on, and like our air conditioner was out, and it was midsummer,
Oh god,
and it was so hot. So like like you just lay still and sweat. And so like I remember trying to when I probably didn't even sleep 2 hours with this thing on. For whatever reason, we got to bed late. We were up for I don't know what was going on, but I remember we were up late. Then I had to get up early because I had to go and take it back before going to work. And it was just kind of one of those situations. And then I didn't even think about it. And then they would call me, and then finally they were like, hey, you need to listen to us. You need to come see us. You stop breathing a lot in your sleep.
yeah,
Please come see us.
oh yeah,
So it was like I had to go through all these hoops trying to convince them that I need to get the test. They were like, man, well, we're not so sure. Maybe, and then like, they were like, wait, okay. I was like, above 70 times an hour stopping to breathe, and like, they're like, hey, you really need to come see us.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, my doctor basically said it was inconclusive, and they didn't do anything else after that. Nothing. And it wasn't until I went on the low carb cruise, and I asked Dr. Barry. I was like, "Look, I'm keto, and I'm still falling asleep at work every day. I mean, it was nuts, crazy." And he was like, "Have you been tested for sleep apnea?" I was like, "Oh, I was." And he was like, "Well, but it was inconclusive." And he basically said, "You you need to get tested because your energy should be through the roof." And I'm like, "Well, my energy is kind of through the roof, except for I'll be sitting there, and then all of a sudden, bam, lights go out." And I that primary care doctor retired back in the end of 24. So I went to a different doctor, and a nurse practitioner, and I talked to her. She was like, "I'm going to order you a home test. You're going to take this home test." I'm like, "Okay." So all of this within weeks. I get the thing 2 weeks later. I put it in. The thing sits on your forehead, and you got some leads going down to your heart and things like that. I mean, you did it. But I get the results back like a month later. I had stopped breathing 70 times an hour.
Yeah.
And they,
Twins.
yeah, they said my heart stopped beating 5 times an hour, and that I have very bad sleep apnea and I need a CPAP. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things that my primary care doctor did for me that I appreciated because uh, he helped me out, but in a lot of ways, not so much. I mean, I consider him a friend. He was my doctor for 26 years. So, and I thought we had a good relationship. And then back in 2022, in October, I I was doing keto for 2 years. Well, I'll go a little bit further. You know, that summer is when I basically went off all of my medicines. I didn't have uh, any more diabetes medicine, no more blood pressure medicine. I wasn't taking the ibuprofen anymore with the famotidine. I wasn't taking the cholesterol pill anymore. All of it stopped, and I wasn't really monitoring myself after that. I just thought I was good. Well, and then October 2nd in 2022, I had just got done doing a tremendous amount of yard work. I hauled off a old iron or steel gate. I threw it in the back of my truck and took it down to the dump and tossed it into the dumpster. I did all that by myself. And, I was feeling great. Fantastic. I woke up the next morning and I had shooting pain in my shoulder. I was like, damn, what the heck is that? And I had bursitis before, years of working with my hands and stuff. So I had a pain in my shoulder before, and I basically chalked it up to bursitis. And next thing you know, that pain started creeping from my shoulder and into my chest, and I was like, that's not good. That's not bursitis. So I went to the medicine cabinet and I grabbed my baby aspirin that I had quit taking, and I took 4 baby aspirin. And after about half hour, 45 minutes, the pain went away, so I thought I was good. I was like, maybe it was bursitis. About an hour after that, the pain came back tenfold. I was like, holy crap, what the heck? I ran over to my blood pressure cuff and I took my blood pressure, and my blood pressure was 210/140. And I told Shell, I was like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And she was like, you're doing keto. You're not having a heart attack. You don't, you know. And I was like, well, I need to go to the emergency room. And she's like, all right. Well, we took off driving to the emergency room and told them what was going on, and they wheeled me right back into the back. I surpassed everybody. And they hooked me up to this machine and they said, you're having a heart attack. I'm like, what? That's not possible. I can't. And I told them, I'm doing this diet to prevent that from happening. And so they medevac me from Bedford over to Lynchburg, which is typically about a 20-mile drive. Takes about 35 to 40 minutes. I was there in about 15. And they had me up and into the cath lab, and they put in 2 stents immediately, and they considered it a minor heart attack because it was the 2 major vessels were not even 20% blocked, but the other vessels that fed the bottom of my heart were 99% blocked. And I went into they said I needed to get 2 stents put in and then come back 2 weeks later and get a 3rd stent put in. And I'm lying in that hospital bed, thinking, damn, my doctor was right. What the hell? I'm like, he told me I was going to have a heart attack. He predicted it. But I asked Dr. Berry that question on the low carb cruise. I was like, what do you say to your doctor when, he tells you you do keto, you're going to have a heart attack, and you end up having a heart attack? And I, Dr. Barry was like, well, sometimes when you're doing the right thing and getting healthy, stuff happens. And I look on back on it now, I'm like, so my two primary vessels were only 20% blocked, if that. Something isn't right there. How come those aren't more blocked than what they are? And I started asking, I was like, how bad would it have been if I hadn't have started keto? I started asking other questions, I'm like, maybe keto probably saved my life because I was a widowmaker waiting to happen, you know? And
Well, the
then,
thing we have to remember, and for anybody listening, we have to remember that changing our way of eating typically happens for most of us, 40s, 50s, 60s. We have to take a look at the broader spectrum of the people in this community. When did most of us get here? I started this in my 30s, my late 30s.
right.
I'm still probably one of the younger people that's in this community. I'm 47, still one of the youngest people in the community. And if you look at the overarching amount of people, I mean, there's a lot of younger people in the carnivore community. Like I think Bella just turned 30, but still,
Right. Yeah,
but you have to remember we're dealing with people who have endured decades of damage,
oh yeah.
decades of things that happen.
Well,
And keto is gonna help, but it's not magic.
exactly. Yeah. And I got to thinking about it as well right after I got diagnosed with sleep apnea. I'm like, that doctor basically said my heart stopped 5 times every hour. I'm like, what's to say that didn't cause a heart attack? I mean,
That's a lot of stress.
yeah, the blockages were there. Yeah, and like you said, that's a lot of stress. I mean, that alone could pretty much clog your arteries. So,
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean, like the stress, the
yeah,
cortisol, like
yeah, exactly.
just the bad diets that we've had for decades. Even we talked even in the beginning of this, you were talking about like you did the low fat, you were doing the rice cakes and peanut butter and I remember the snack wells and all the things that we were doing because we were told that that was healthier.
Yep. I would go to the vending machine and they had little green check boxes beside all of the stuff that was healthy. They had like the baked Lay's potato chips, and they had the baked Cheetos, and they had York peppermint patties. They were healthy. I'm like, 50 grams of sugar is healthy. Sure, okay, great. At the time, I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. If I can eat that stuff, yeah, I'm fine. I'd have baked potato with my grilled chicken breast along with steamed vegetables pretty much all the time. And yeah, I would sit there and eat York peppermint patties for dessert because they're healthy. So, I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy. We talked about it before a couple of times about, how many carbs do we actually eat a day before keto? I estimated somewhere between 700 to 1,000.
I imagine I had 1,000 probably more often than not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, realistically, if you would think like I would eat so much food. I mean, I was eating just quantity of food.
Oh yeah.
And it's just in fact like and then on top of that I smoked for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
So who knows where I'm at like physically, you know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah.
I've been doing keto since 2016, and I'm sure it's helped me a lot, but there's still, it's like part of me, like the probably an underlying reason why I've never got a CAC score is not because it's like $100, because that's an insignificant amount of money in the grand scheme of things. I think it's more along the lines of I don't want to know.
Right. Well, I got a CAC score done about a year and a half ago after the heart attack. And just because my doctor was freaking out about my total cholesterol being, 320. And granted, he was a little ticked off when I went, yes, new high score. All right. And, so, I mean, he's like, that's not funny. And I was listening to Dr. Barry saying cholesterol isn't as bad as they make it out to be. And, so I had the CAC score done, and it came back. It was like 2,000 something. I was like, well, did they take out or account for the stents? No. Did they account for the plaque buildup that was there from the cath lab exam? No. They just said, this is your score. And I was like, well, it probably wouldn't have been anywhere near that high if they had taken into account all of the stuff that they had known was there from before. So, I mean, it's crazy that, my cardiologist, so he's freaking out and telling me that I need to be on a statin, even though every statin I took causes joint pain. And he was like, well, you were on this rosuvastatin for 15 years and never bothered you then. I was like, well, it probably did bother me. It's just I was in so much pain everywhere else that I didn't feel the joint pain because.
Would you say you were taking like 2,400 milligrams of ibuprofen every day?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course. You didn't have any idea.
Yeah, I didn't feel any freaking pain. I was a daggum zombie. And then, I basically told him that. He was like, how do you know it's causing you pain? I'm like, because nothing else is causing me pain, just my joints. And I stopped taking it and the pain goes away. So then they tried like 3 different statins and every single one of them caused the exact same thing. I was like, nope, not taking them. So.
And realistically, if you look at the statistics, they're insignificant. There's like no statistical proof that they actually do anything anyway.
Yep.
But to the doctor's credit, they truly worry.
Oh yeah.
They're really worried about it. They're not like it's not like a smoke and pony show or whatever. They're legitimately terrified of cholesterol.
Right.
I mean, I'm trying to beat Dave and Nick's score of 700.
Exactly. I still want to try the Oreo thing with Nick. Eat 12 Oreos a day for 2 weeks straight, and your cholesterol.
Man, I would see the problem is I wouldn't stop at 12. I'd eat a package every day.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you, brother.
That's the problem. I would just eat the it's not a row. It's how many rows are there?
Yeah. So if 12 helps, then 50 is better. So yeah, hey, yeah.
You're gonna get the mega stuffs.
Yeah, exactly. I always ate the double stuff anyway because I was like, these little thin things.
I'm pretty sure that's what we used to buy.
Yeah.
It's like I used to go and I'd go to the store, and I would buy the things that I knew Chandra liked.
Yep.
Because if she liked it, I was pretty okay with it too.
Of course.
And so it would be Oreos.
Yeah.
And then there was this ice cream because she doesn't really like ice cream. She wants the stuff in the ice cream. So it would have to be, I'd buy the ice cream that had the most stuff in it. And there was this Kroger brand. It was like this chocolate Denali Super XL like stuff, and it had just like
Yeah.
thick gobs of like fudge and chocolate in it. And she'd be like, she would eat all the stuff out and then just I'd have my bowl of ice cream. And then she would eat all the stuff out of her ice cream and then give me the ice cream that was left over.
Right.
So,
Oh, yeah.
and I mean, what's better than a happy wife? There's not a lot better than a happy wife.
Exactly.
So I would be like, here I would come home with all that stuff all the time because it was not like an easy way, but it was a way to ensure, it was an easy way to show that you cared
Yep.
by making them happy with food. And that's how I grew up.
Oh yeah. My ringtone for Shell, I don't know if you remember it, but there was a SpongeBob episode where they were selling chocolates to people, going door to door selling chocolates to everyone. And there's this old lady. They told the old lady that if you take the chocolate and rub it on your skin, it'll make you young again. And the lady would start screaming, "Chocolate! Chocolate!" That was my ringtone for Shell. Whenever notification tone, every time, because she was a chocolate fiend. So was I, but
I still love chocolate. Like,
okay.
that's what
Me too.
like the right kind of like milk chocolate. Almost, and it's sad. It's like you can give me like the super high quality stuff, and I'm like, meh. You give me the cheapest milk chocolate stuff, maybe not Hershey cheap, but like just whatever. And I'm just like, I can't put it in fast enough.
Right. Yep. Exactly. I mean, after pretty much seeing my numbers shoot up while I was doing that nutritionist advice, I did that for, I want to say close to a year to give it enough time to see if it worked. And my numbers exploded. I went to I adapted the phrase "better living through pharmaceuticals" because I was like, let's see if these medicines actually do what they're supposed to do. And and they didn't. I would go to the vending machine and I would pick out the Nutter Butters because there was two of them, and you got twice as much stuff for the money.
I can't say that I didn't look at that. Like, I would eat pretzels because you got more pretzels,
Exactly.
or Cheetos because you got more Cheetos.
Exactly. Less air in the bag equals more food.
Mm-hmm.
Equals happier me.
I mean, that was how I lived my life. I mean, even still, like, I still think about this even today. Even today, I told you that I had to go. So my daughter took the grandkids out to this outdoor mall nearby, and they have this Hello Kitty food truck thing. It was not a food truck. It was just like a van that was selling Hello Kitty merch. And I guess they had cookies and stuff too, but not like what you would think. They were like prepackaged, like what you would find, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but they got a blanket, but there was a line, and it's 90 degrees outside, and there was little to no shade, and there were hundreds of people in this line, to where they called me to come pick up the littlest grandkid because she was just sitting in the sun baking. So I'm like, okay, I'll come get her. So I drive all the way there. It's about a 15-20 minute drive, then a 15-20 minute drive home, and then I get her home and she's like soaked. So I'm like, okay, so we got to change the baby, and I'm like, we're just gonna hang out and cool off because she was toasty. I don't know, maybe they did bake her a little bit. I don't know, but
It was like the nuke scene in Terminator 2. Just
yeah. So, went and got her, and I forget where I was going with this story though. What were we saying before that?
talking about getting as much value from the food as you could.
Yeah.
possibly.
So I was driving on my way, and I happened to see a one of the sandwich shops, like a Jersey Mike's, and I always think to myself, like, that's one of the hardest parts about this diet or this lifestyle is none of the restaurants, none of the chains are set up for us.
Right.
because you go and you spend, I don't know, I don't even know how much Jersey Mike's is. I'm going to say $15 for a sandwich.
Yeah.
It's probably 20 to $15 a sandwich, whatever. You figure if you're lucky, you may be getting 4 ounces of meat.
Right.
So you figure you double the meat, then you're getting a whole 8 ounces. And I'm like, that's still not worth the trip.
Oh yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know, we did that for so long. Like now I think about that, like I think about all of that. I think about, like, you know, when you go to the restaurants and like, and then I think about how I used to be, where I would be like, where do I get the most bang for my buck? Where do I get the most food? And I would look at the menu and I go, well, what's going to give me the most?
Yeah.
Because if I don't leave miserable,
Yeah.
I didn't get my money's worth.
All you can eat buffets. Yep. Absolutely.
There used to be, well, that was the weird thing. And that's kind of, I mean, that's not a, my mom and my great aunt they were buffet buddies.
Oh yeah.
So they would get together. But they didn't really call them buffets back then. They called them smorgasbords back then, right?
Right.
So I remember there was like a few of them. Like we would go to these smorgasbords, and as a kid, I'm like, yeah, this has got pizza and all. I'm like, yeah. But I remember that was a thing. That's how they were. That's what they did together. They didn't go shopping.
Right.
They got together and went to the buffet.
Yep.
Like,
oh yeah.
And like you think, like at the time you're a kid, it seems normal because that's probably what everybody does, right? It's so weird, like the idea that that's how my family got together was the buffet,
Yep.
and that's what they made plans to go eat a ridiculous amount of food.
Yep. I would get the mashed potatoes, and I would have a big old volcano of mashed potatoes, and had the gravy as the lava coming down off the side. You know. Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was thinking about that because I've been wanting to go on a cruise, and there's always the low carb cruises and all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Rachel's in October.
yeah,
Yep.
all those, and I'm like, well, I don't know when I'll ever be able to afford that, but I think about that. I'm like, I was thinking about it would just be easier just to hang out. And like, cause I imagine there's probably on the buffet, there's got to be like burger patties or whatever. There's probably got to be all that stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
And whether you go to like the burger joint, cause I think they all have like a Johnny Rockets or something on board, right?
Something. Yeah.
And
Everything's
like,
all
well,
you can eat on the cruise.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just go and just get as many burger patties as you want, slices of cheese, pickles, or steaks, or I don't know, I don't know if there's always steak or whatever, but I've never been on a cruise, so I have no idea.
Right.
But, you know, I'm just like, that would be great. Because I'm always trying to like learn things. So I've watched things about cruises,
Yep.
even though I don't know if I'll ever go on one. Like, you know, embarkation, and it doesn't matter. But it's how my brain works.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, that's just where I've always been with how do I get the most? How do I eat the most? Like whether it's something from the vending machine, what's the biggest candy bar they have? What's the most weighted candy bar?
Exactly.
You know, which one's the biggest one? Is it a Snickers bar or is it the Three Musketeers or
per candy bar? Yep.
yeah. That's how it's sad, but I mean, now even still, I mean, it translates even now. Like, say we were to go to a steakhouse, I'm like, do you have anything bigger than the 18-ounce ribeye? Can you give me a 30-ounce ribeye?
Yeah, exactly. And well, what kind of stopped me going to the buffets? This was before keto. I was sitting there and I got my plate full of food, and I'm coming back and I sat down. You know, it wasn't like the little kids, you know, rubbing their nose and picking up all the food with their hands and everything. It was the fact that I go to take a bite out of my potatoes, and there was a strand of dish rag about that long in my mashed potatoes that I had to pull out and throw down because they were
I imagine
up.
that meal was free.
Yeah, they had to clean up, and the person that was cleaning up had a loose thing on the side of their rag, and it ended up in the mashed potatoes. I was like, Oh, okay, I'm done.
If I knew it was going to be that kind of party.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, exactly. Yep. And then of course, the CC's pizza. We tried that one time.
the bite and scrape.
Yeah. The well, this place was only like a couple of months old, and we went there and we were slipping on the floor because the grease was so bad, and the the food was horrible and everything else. I used to call it feces pizza because it
Well,
was
I mean, that
horrible.
was great for us because when I was, when I was younger, we would go wherever we could get like, because CC's, I think when it opened, it was $5.
Yep, it was $5.
Yeah. So, I mean,
All you can eat.
as a poor 20 something, that's amazing. I mean, you think anything you can do that's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
because I mean, like,
Yeah.
one of the weird dichotomies that we have now is going to like Chili's or
Yeah.
to TGI Fridays is most likely cheaper now
Uh huh.
than going to McDonald's,
Yeah, of course.
which is insane. Like, how's a bit like a double quarter pounder with cheese meal is more expensive at McDonald's than going to TGI Fridays and getting their lunch burger?
Yep. Well, you do the a la carte menu and get the quarter pound beef patties a la carte and just the patties by themselves, and they're like $2 a patty. I I just did that a couple weeks ago. My son and I were coming back from picking up my daughter's car, and I went into McDonald's and I asked them. I was like, I want six quarter pound ground beef patties, just the patties. I don't want a meal. I don't want the size. I don't want anything, just the patties. And they said, well, we have to ring you up for a quarter pounder first, and then you can add extra patties on top of that. And I was like, go get the manager because that's not right. And then the manager told me that, we'll let you do it this time, but we don't normally let people order patties a la carte like that. And I'm like, that's fine by me because I'm never going to be at this McDonald's again anyway. So whatever. And then it ended up for six patties, it was a little over $8. And tax up in Northern Virginia is like 12%. So eh, I was like,
That's not bad, but I mean, realistically, like, I wish fast food places would make it easier for people like us
yep,
for the simple fact that most of us don't go because they make it difficult.
oh yeah. I mean,
And
no,
so, would you rather at least get something out of us, or do you just want us to not come there at all? Like, now,
exactly.
granted, there's a McDonald's just outside of our neighborhood. It's new. They've been building all these warehouses. So now there's a McDonald's there. Now they've opened. We finally got a Quick Trip here in Indiana. So there's a Quick Trip across from us. I haven't been to that one yet. It just opened like 2 weeks ago, and I haven't had a need. And there's a Starbucks there, and I guess we're going to be getting a what's the Dutch Bros? I guess we're getting one of those too. But yeah, so there's all that kind of opening up right at the back of our neighborhood.
Right.
But one of the things that McDonald's that does is, and it does help me because just the act of going through the McDonald's to get like say a Coke Zero. Because when they
Right.
started selling Coke Zero, then I actually was like, okay, I guess McDonald's is back on my radar because I don't like Diet Coke. And I'm not a big enough fan of iced tea. And now they charge more for iced tea than they charge for soda
Oh yeah.
at McDonald's.
Yep.
I mean, it's like 30 cents more, but still it's the idea, it's the principle of it. I don't want to spend more for iced tea than I do for soda.
Yep.
But the idea, even still, like the act of being able to go in, it still gives you that idea like, oh, I got a treat. I can stop and get a soda. It gives you, it kind of fulfills like, and maybe you'll understand this. And you guys in the chat too, like whenever you'd go run errands, if you had to go to the grocery store or like run to Target or and do multiple stops throughout, like on a Saturday, you and Shell would go do stuff. Would there be something that you would you stop and get something else? Like, would you run through a fast food
Oh, yeah.
just because you know what? We deserve it.
Yep. Five Guys and crack fries was one of our go-to. We get We go to Five Guys and we all get a double cheeseburger with whatever toppings we wanted. You know, the daggum thing came out about that big. And then we get a large fry. And I love that place because they give you a large fry and then they sit there and take two extra scoops and put them in a bag. I'm like, hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I took all the bag fries and everybody else just shared the fries that were in the the tube container that they gave you. So,
We only went a couple of times to Five Guys because one, it's inconvenient because it's not drive through.
right.
So I took the kids. I think the kids and I went once or twice. Yeah, and then I don't think we realized about the fries.
Right.
So everybody got a burger and everybody got fries, and I think there was just so many fries.
Oh yeah.
Because we didn't, you don't know until you know. And then I think recently didn't they try to change their policy where they were just giving you just the fries, and people were like, "Wait, you can't go from giving us all of this to just no."
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you can't. And people were like, "No, you charge way too much for this food."
Yep. Yep. Formal protest. Yep. Nope. We want our full bag full of fries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Rick said drive to, not drive through.
right.
And he said my engine is my restaurant.
Oh yeah.
Rick.
But yeah, I mean, so also we were talking about you know how I got into the community.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a closet keto person. You know, I was basically I'd watch all the videos, the recipe videos, and things like that, and I'd watch the lives, but I never really took part in them. I never watched them while they were live. I just watched them whenever I watched them, and you know, I said this at this past low carb cruise. We were doing it wrong the whole time. This community is by far and above the best thing that it's ever happened to me, including keto. The fact that I have met so many wonderful people, so many people that honestly, truly care about everything that's going on in your life is just fantastic. I mean, the fact that I like meeting you and Evelyn and Nancy and pretty much everybody. If you have the ability to go to any of these meetups, you need to go. Because if I hadn't have gone to that 23 low carb cruise, I never would have met any of you people. I would have, I mean, yeah, I would have been, just closet watching. And if it wasn't for Heath and Shelley, I didn't know anything about you. They're the ones that said, hey, you need to check out Dustin's live on Sunday. And I was like, yeah, cool. I'm not doing anything on Sunday. So I hopped in, instantly fell in love with the channel, and I've been a part of it ever since. And like I said, that inspired me to go to Keto Palooza. It inspired me to go to Heath and Shelley's meetup last year, and it inspired me to go on the 2KK cruises. I tell everybody, keto is great for the food, but if you want, I consider everybody in here my keto family, because everyone genuinely cares about what's happening in my life, whether it's eating the right things or hey, you should try this recipe. I mean, I have never met a bad keto cook. Every single person in here can cook the living daylights out of anybody else that I know.
For me, I was doing this channel for a while. So I started in 2016, didn't find any kind of, so I started in 2016 basically because of two keto dudes, their podcast.
Yeah.
And then they had a kind of a private community Like they had a Facebook group, and then like it just got overrun. It was too popular. And when a Facebook group kind of gets that terminal vault, like terminal whatever, there's too many people, it just kind of falls apart.
Right. Yep.
And they started. I don't even know where it was. Like, there's a ketogenic group or whatever they have. It's a private community, not on Mighty Networks or anything like that. I haven't logged in so long, but I was in there. But it never quite felt like a community. And then I started doing YouTube in 2021. And I still kind of didn't feel like I had a community. I was just putting videos into the void, and I didn't really have much interaction with people. I tried to do some interviews, but it was just people that I had seen off of like Instagram and people that I kind of had connections with. But it never felt like a community.
Right.
Because none of those people were all connected. It was all like, well, I know this person and I know this person, but they didn't know each other.
Right.
And it wasn't till a Facebook group, Jackie.
Oh, okay.
Now, Jackie and I with Lynn and Rick had lunch or dinner Monday night.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Mm-hmm. And because of Jackie did a meetup at Buffalo Wild Wings in Avon, like what I'm doing August 8th, same place. And she had got together. She got me and Shanner to show up, and like Maitreya was there,
Right.
and Emily and James were there. That's how I met Emily and James and Maitreya, and that's how I met Don and Mike.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Lucas was there. That's how I met Jennifer Lucas, and a whole host of other people. People come up from like Don and Mike. They live up near Cleveland.
Yeah.
So they came from that far away. I didn't even realize. It took me a long time to realize how far. I knew they lived in Ohio. But
Right.
it took me a very long time to realize how far away that they lived, right?
Right.
And so then I knew that people would come up from like almost right near Louisville. So that was kind of my first foray into the actual, what would become my involvement with this community. Because I wanted a community. I wanted to be involved. But it just took me to meeting the right people because, again, when you start making YouTube videos, you're just kind of putting this into the void. Now, once you kind of start meeting people and other people, the other creators, and then, it takes a while. But like, so then, you run into someone like Chris Cook in Nashville, becomes part of the community because there's still a good number of people that are doing this, but they're outside of the community.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Like, now, and I not throw shade when I say things like this, but Steve from Serious Keto, he's outside of the community. He has his own little community that he's built, but he's not in part of our community necessarily. I mean, he is, but he's not. He's
Right.
Yeah. And then the same thing with like Wes Shoemaker from, Highfalutin Low Carb, and these are all amazing, great people.
Yep.
But I think they're on the outside. They've got their own lives they're living, and that's fine.
Right.
But then, at the same time, these are people that I was looking up to when I was starting the YouTube, and I wanted something like this.
Exactly.
And this is important to me. And doing the meetups and driving 3-4 hours to go see people, and having like one of the things, because when you do live this lifestyle, there is a disconnect between your real life people.
Yep. Right.
Versus the community. Like, I have friends that I can barely get them to drive 20 minutes to have lunch with me, but people will come 4 hours away to come have BW3s with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I mean, there's obviously a little more time in there, but you know what I mean? But like, I could call my buddy up, hey, do you want to get lunch tomorrow? I bet you anything he'd be like, over by me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why don't you come to lunch by me?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. It's crazy. I mean, driving. Well, for the meetup with Heath and Shelley last year, we drove up to Columbus, Ohio, which was 8 hours away. And
Right.
we stayed for 4 days because they were going to be in Ohio for 4 days. And it was funny. I mean, Shauna coming flying out from California to see him, and other people that drove 3-4 hours. You even took Jennifer Lucas with you, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she lives like 2 minutes down the road.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, yeah. But gave her a ride there and back, and it's crazy. And yeah, the fact that you know you're hooked the second you go to one of these things because you want to go to more. You keep wanting, Shell and I are still thinking about moving because we want to be closer to our keto family.
Yeah.
So because here in I call it BFE Virginia, there's hardly anybody around. I mean, Angela, we haven't met yet. We're gonna have to set something up. But Angela Mullins, she actually lives like maybe 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away, and so we're hopefully going to be able to set something up to where we can meet. But there's no one else anywhere close to us. I mean, we got maybe Bronson and Natalie up in Northern Virginia, and a couple of other people. Uh, Donna and Bob. They live in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is about 3 hours away. But you know, I,
Now, if you were to move somewhere, where would your ideal place be?
uh, that's a good question. Well, you know the state that I live in and what just recently happened and what I like to do. So,
Hmm.
I mean, my Navy brother, basically, I've known him for over 30 years. Uh, we're pretty close, and he lives in Tennessee now. So maybe, Tennessee. Michelle's mom and dad, they live in Vegas, and it'd be kind of. I always said that it's a great place to visit, but I don't know if I'd really want to live there because I don't do traffic too well anymore now that I live in the sticks. So, but and my sister lives in Georgia. My oldest sister, she lives in Brunswick, Georgia, which is not too far from Jacksonville. So I was thinking maybe Jacksonville, Florida, and places like that. But I my sister in Maryland was asking, "How come you don't want to come back to Maryland?" I'm like, "Yeah, imagine me going back up there." Yeah, no.
We'll have to see what happens with the Third Circuit. But anyway,
Right, exactly. So but yeah, I mean,
Indiana's nice.
Indiana's nice. Yeah. I, other than keto family, I don't have but the fact that there's so many people in like Ohio and Indiana and New York, like you know Trish and Bob in New York that drive as far as they do to come to all of that stuff.
Yeah, they drove down. They drove to a meetup in Elkhart. I'm like, you live in Buffalo? What are you doing here? Like, I mean, I'm not
Exactly.
not that I'm not grateful, but I'm like, but why? Like, that's a lot. They're like, oh, you know. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, one of these days I'm gonna retire and be able to do all of that. And I got my fingers crossed. I invested in the retirement plan. Hopefully those numbers will come in. The retirement plan is like Powerball and Mega Millions. But yeah, so
I would like to win those. Then I can afford to go on the low carb cruise and stuff. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
right,
Like,
right,
then going to like all these meetups and all the conventions and all the things would be not an issue anymore.
right. Yeah, exactly.
I
That
can maybe
that
buy myself a new CPAP.
yeah, yeah.
Mine's 10 years old now, and it's getting a little long in the tooth.
A little funky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So somebody was like talking about.
You
I
win
guess
that
there's
money.
somebody Keto Wang. I don't know who Keto Wang is.
Keto Wang. Elena Wang. She was actually on the low carb cruise, and her testimony will shake you to your core. I mean, literally, she was just, whew, she was in her 20s. She was hooked on every single drug that you could possibly think of. You know, teeth were pretty much rotted out and everything else. And yeah, when she started keto, carnivore, and she's now a health coach and like completely thriving. You know, her whole story is just, yeah, it'll make you cry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love, I want, I look, well, that's the thing. It's like there's every day there's somebody new coming out, right? So tomorrow I'm going to be doing a live stream, not on this channel. I'll be doing it on Anthony's channel.
yeah, I saw that.
Big guy, I can't remember what his name is. I know it's terrible of me, but I can't remember what his channel is. It's I got it in my notes here for tomorrow. I got to write stuff down because I can't remember, especially on the fly. It's that's for high carb human. I have a guide tomorrow. Who am I going to do tomorrow? Anthony, what's his thing? Hold on. I feel bad, but like it's okay. Big guy grind. No S, because there's a big guy grinds and it's a completely different channel. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. That'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Right.
If somebody would put that in the put that link to that video in the chat for me, that would be awesome. Got amazing moderators in here. You guys are amazing. All of you.
We do our best.
Yeah, like the keto is keto. Yeah, put Keto Wings information in the chat too for me. And then next Saturday I'm gonna have Bill on, who is high calorie human.
Right.
He's been on like Dave Mack and he's talked with a bunch of people.
I don't know if Elena Keto Wang has a YouTube channel, but she does have a Facebook page. And she also has, well, if you go to the Low Carb Cruise page, you can actually see her testimony, and she gives her information in that as well.
Yeah, and Rick asked a great question, like who can keep up with everybody? It's impossible because there's not a day that goes by almost or a week that goes by that there's somebody new popping up, and then I'm like, oh, I've never seen them before, and they've been around 5 years, have 100,000 subscribers, and I'm like, where have you been hiding? What rock?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's crazy. Like there's always somebody new, and like I like finding the little small channels, like the 100, 200, 500 subscriber channels. I like finding the people because I mean, realistically, if we can't get out and share these stories,
yeah, exactly,
the news stories, and like I had, when I had a young lady on about a year ago, and she was telling her story about being in the feederism community and all these things, and like something I had no idea existed, and I need to get her back on because she's been through a lot and huge, significant changes in her life from even that point. So it'd be exciting to get her back on. Yeah. She's been talking about doing a podcast. I helped her with stuff and I helped design some of her podcast stuff. She just hasn't done it yet.
Right.
But I think that would be fantastic. Christy says Bill is awesome. High calorie human Bill. Yeah, he's great. Yeah. I'm going to be talking with him next Saturday. I'm not sure what time. Yeah. So Evelyn said her Facebook page is Keto Wang. That might be changing as she's gotten married and Wang is no longer her last name.
I think she said she's still keeping it Keto Wang, but yeah. The other thing I like about the smaller channels is watching them physically change in front of you. The fact that you see the benefits that they're getting. You see, their skin starting to get that, I call it the keto glow. Their weight starting to shed off. The fact that, hey, I'm doing like Aaron doing that keto mojo thing, and what's actually helping her and what's actually, not helping her and things like that. That to me is fantastic. I, I, I love watching stuff like that. And again, like I said, the fact that everybody cares about that. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you get better. They want to see you, you know, even if it's not keto related. They want to know, you know, like, you know, just recently we had to get our dog put down, and we received warm wishes and uh, cards from people, you know, telling us that they're thinking about us, and they, you know, it's just crazy. I mean, the amount of love and support that these people give every single day. You can't. I I tell the people in my family, I was like, don't do keto. Just go, you know, whole food. Just eat, you know, everything that's single ingredient or at the most 5 ingredients, and do like that. But what you need to do is start logging into this community, talking to these people and hearing their stories and seeing what they went through, what they've overcome, what they've, you know, accomplished in as much time as they have been into it. You know, it's just crazy. I mean, going on the low carb cruise, but also going on the 2K cruise with Joe and Rachel. I mean, there's a person, I think her name was Carolyn. She lost over 196 pounds. I'm like, that's insane. And then, like Nancy and, you know, Terry and all of those people, every single one of them over close to 200 pounds, pretty much all of them. I'm flabbergasted. The fact that people will sit there and say that this is, you know, unhealthy, this isn't good for you, this is going to kill you if you keep doing it. And you have so many of these people that have results like this that are life changing. They recovered their lives. I mean, I was at a point where, you know, I would have to stop 1 or 2 times walking from my office to my car in the parking lot. Granted, I parked about a half a mile away from my desk because of going through security and everything. But, you know, the fact that I couldn't hardly move, and now, you know, I'm walking 2-3 miles a day. Just it's crazy. I uh, I had a friend of mine once. You know, he was trying to keep up with me. I was walking down the alleyway at work, getting ready to go up to tooling, and he's huffing and puffing, and this dude's like in the best shape of his life. And I'm like, he asked me, he was like, "Why do you always walk so fast?" And I told him, because I can. I used to not be able to do this. You don't understand the change that this had on you. The fact that you have enough energy, enough, the pain's gone. I mean, I'm actually, they have an event around here. They call it the 4 mile walk and run, or the five. It's a 4/10 mile walk and run. I never thought I'd ever want to do that in my life, and I'm actually considering about signing up for it next year, just to see what I can do.
There was when I first started doing this, Chandra was working at this hospital, and you know how hospitals can be, right?
Oh yeah.
Just nothing makes sense.
Yep.
Like, you want to go to the second floor, you got to be careful which elevator you get on, because you can get to the second floor, but you can't get to where they are, because it's
Yeah.
all just discombobulated. So where she worked, you had to go in, through, around, and back, and then got an elevator in. And so I remember just walking through her hospital to go visit her on a day, because I would go to her hospital way in. They had this giant, you know, big, huge scale. So I go and do it there, and I'm, an excuse to see her too.
Right.
And so I would go and I would walk it down this long, long hallway and like, one, not having any pain doing it and not feeling like, not feeling all like, and just moving and almost feeling like I'm gliding along. And I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Now I have gained some weight back and I'm not as probably as nimble as I was at that point, but just going through that alone and feeling that,
Yeah.
there's like an incalculable amount of things that have happened to me in the last 10 years that I never thought would happen. Because again, we're supposed to get older and worse.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I go up the steps at work 2 steps at a time now, just because that's how much energy I have. I'm just like, you know, I the fact that I can go and do all of these things outside in the yard and everything else when there is no way in hell I would have been able to do that 6 years ago. And Shell, she's a surgical tech, and she works in the endoscopy department in Roanoke, and she sees these sick people every single day, well over 400, 500 pounds, and basically she has to hold her tongue because she can't tell them that the advice the doctor has given you is 100% wrong. You do not need to eat what they're telling you to eat.
End up like Gary Fettke.
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of feel bad for her with the fact that, if she said anything, she'd lose her job. The fact that.
Yeah, Shander's in the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. And I, I kind of, I always reference it as well. I consider like keto, like Matrix. You take the blue pill and everything goes back to normal. And then you take the red pill and you know what you know. You learn that all this other stuff is bad for you, and all this other stuff is the stuff they tell you that you shouldn't eat is what you really need to be eating. And then I think of the guy, I think it was Cypher in the movie, that says, "Why didn't I take the blue pill?" Because sometimes you kind of miss that stuff. You're like, yeah, it'd be kind of nice to be ignorant for a day or two, just to. But I think about it, and then I think of all of the things like, if I do that, I'm probably going to have the knee pain and the back pain and the shoulder pain and the probably chest pains from another heart attack if I do. But yeah, so I I was a really bad foodie. I used to eat. I love potatoes. My mom was Irish, and a meal wasn't a meal without potatoes. Every single meal had to have some form of whether French fries, mashed potatoes, home fries, whatever. That was part of every meal. That was the staple of every meal for me. I mean, I'd have a little piece of meat and a big old glob full of potatoes because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what was good. So,
Big home fries fried in Crisco.
oh my gracious, the Crisco was the good part, though. That's what they weren't telling you. Yeah. So, I mean, it's. I also consider all of the people that I've tried helping that have given it a decent shot, and said that no, I just can't do it. I think to myself, I'm like, you know, every decision has its pluses and minuses. You know, even keto has its pluses and minuses. Yes, the plus side is you're going to get a little bit healthier, and you're going to get, you might start being able to do all of this stuff. But the minus is you have to give up some of the things that you like. You have to give up, you know, and the fact that some people say that, I can't live my life without this stuff. I was like, well, I mean, so you got to look at it as, the plus, you get to have what you want, but the minus is you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt that way about smoking, right? I felt that way about, about a lot of foods and oh, I felt that way in life about a few different things. And I still have a mindset now that I can still eat whatever I want.
Yep.
I can eat whatever I want. I'm an adult. I'm a grown ass man.
Exactly.
I can go right now and do whatever I want within my wallet. You know what I mean? But like and do I take that into consideration in certain aspects of my life? Absolutely.
Yep.
There are going to be vacations and things like that. Do I pay for it? Yes. Do my knees bother me? Yes. Do I anticipate that? Yes.
Yep.
Am I fully aware it's probably going to happen? Yes. Do I make the conscious effort? Yeah, because I understand how it's going to work and I choose to do that.
Yep.
Now, if I was a smarter person, I probably wouldn't. But I've never been here to say that I'm smart.
Right.
But I think but the idea that I have the ability to choose.
Oh, yeah.
And not just be completely enslaved by those things, where it was every night. Exactly. I had basically no choice. It just drove me.
Yeah. The fact that you would literally eat until your stomach was about to bust.
Yes.
And then a half hour later,
go eat ice cream.
Raiding the cabinet for something else.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then fall asleep because I passed out from all the sugar and carbohydrates.
Right, exactly. I mean, so, and that's pretty much the thing that made me fall in love with your channel, Dustin, was the fact that you realize that nobody's perfect. You realize that everyone's going to slip up. You realize that the best thing you can do when you fall off the bike is to get right back up and get back on it. And you will live to fight another day.
Yeah, the next meal.
Yeah, exactly.
And am I... It's hard to explain because would I be better suited in certain aspects, not being so forthcoming in certain aspects? Probably so. Because do I kind of fear that me being so transparent may enable certain people to make poorer choices? Maybe. And I do think about that. I do contemplate these ideas that if I were just not feign perfection, because I think that that's absurd.
Right.
But there are a lot of channels out there. There's a lot of people, whether, in our community, that will say that, that they never do this and never do that. And I'm like, that's not me. It's never going to be me.
Yep.
I wish I was, my life would be much more simple if I could just if I could just be more perfect, if you will, right?
Right.
If I no longer had that real desire. But I have to also take a step back and look at the 1,000-foot view of my life and look at where I've been, where I am.
Yep.
And I have to feel fortunate that I'm in a place now where I can see these things.
Exactly.
Even the mistakes even as I'm making the mistake.
Yep.
I wrestle with myself all the time about things.
Yeah.
Whether it's, to have, to eat ramen for dinner. Should I do that? No. Do I do it? Every once in a while.
Yeah.
Even as I'm doing it, I'm like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this?
Yep. I, I started considering calling myself, you know, all of the negative people saying, you're not a real carnivore, you're not real keto, you're not this, you're not that. I'm like, well, I'm a B plus carnivore, B plus keto
Yeah.
person. To me, that's still passing.
I'm not a valedictorian, I might have made honor roll.
Yeah, like somebody said in the chat a little while ago, C's gets degrees. Well, a B plus in keto still makes me not diabetic anymore.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think when you start looking at the consistency level, no matter in the last 10 years, I would say nowhere have I been under 80% consistent.
Right.
Have there been consequences to that? Yeah, I've gained weight. I've also been at home almost the entire time, like especially since kind of the pandemic that completely shifted my life.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That changed I mean, not even the pandemic, not even what you would consider the pandemic, but like what came out, like my work sent me home. So I was at home for a year before I lost my job. So I was at home nonstop. There was nowhere to go. Then I lost my job, so I'm home. Now I'm, a situation where I take care of grandkids and we're doing this, that we're doing that. So like I'm just home all the time.
Right.
And I'm not as active as I would have been, even just getting in the car and driving every day, walking from the car, just little things like,
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I want to go ahead and start wrapping this up, but I just kind of want, because I value your time is there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
Well, I mean, I'm still a work in progress. I still haven't figured everything out, and I'm still fighting the falling asleep. It's just not every day now. It's like maybe every other day or whatever. And the fact that, I mean, we're always going. I consider it. Think of yourself as a big old jigsaw puzzle. Just when you thought you were a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle, you're actually a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. You still got a lot more pieces to go before you're completely whole again. And then when you get to that 1,000-point mark, you're like, oh, well, maybe I'm a 2,000-piece puzzle. I mean, just the pieces are always connecting. You're always trying to find ways to better your life. I mean, if you stop at 500 pieces, yeah, you got a completed puzzle there, but you're missing out on other things that you can get, so
100%.
yeah, so
I mean, we never get a full picture of ourselves,
exactly, yep. And I'm like you said, never going to be perfect. I'm always going to have things going on, but it's when you stop looking for answers and you finally give up that you've pretty much thrown in the towel, and you're not, you're just living out the remainder of your life instead of actually living your life. I know this band is a little too poppy for you, but I listened to a band called Beartooth, and they have I'm trying to remember the name of the song now, but they I Was Alive is the name of the song, and it basically says, I'm not going to be on my deathbed living my life, or while wasting my last breath thinking about the things I never did or never said. So, I mean, that's it. I don't want to be on my deathbed regretting anything. I want to know that I gave it my all. I didn't throw in the towel and just you know, that's kind of the reason, you know, I started keto in the first place, was the fact that, one, I didn't want to lose any body parts, and two, I didn't want my family to have to go through what we had to go through with my mom and dad.
Right.
The fact that my mom had Alzheimer's for the last 4 or 5 years of her life, couldn't remember who we were at times, and you know, basically what ended up taking her was the fact that she basically forgot how to go to the bathroom, and she ended up with a urinary tract infection that ended up killing her. And my dad had a stroke, and for the last 2 years of his life, he was immobile, couldn't do anything. He survived the stroke, and he was well on his way to recovery until he fell one day and didn't move again since, because the fall hurt too bad. And I'm like, I don't want to put my family through that. I want to be able to say that I lived my life to the fullest, and that no one had to take care of me, and you know, had to change my diaper and take me to the bathroom and, you know, bathe me and all of this other stuff. You know, I don't want to be in that position.
Right.
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons I got the tattoo that I got. The fact that that's a reminder. I look at that in the mirror every day and say, that's not going to be me. That's you know, everybody has a why in keto, and that's my why. You know, I want to make sure that I am 100% there for my family, for as long as I can possibly be there.
Yep. Well, thank you, Sean. I really appreciate you being here with me,
Yeah, thank you.
sharing your story,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
being just an amazing part of this community. Really, really, and truly. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody who's here, even though we really didn't get a chance to say hi to everybody like we normally do.
All right.
But
We're
with
two
that, I'm
old
going to go
ladies.
ahead and I'm going to go ahead and put this outro up here. I will see you all later tomorrow morning. I'll be here tomorrow morning, and then again in the afternoon tomorrow. So hopefully by then you're good and sick of me until Tuesday. But I don't believe I've updated this outro, so this outro is probably not updated with the right credits. My apologies on that. But anyway, until tomorrow morning,
Love
I'll
all you
see
guys.
you all later. Love you guys.
Yeah. Bye.